Hello and welcome to From the Mic Stand here on Arseco's. We've seen a great set there from Nick Degg. We've had a bit of a poetic end to the year. Last week, or the week before that, we had the brilliant Mark Rawlins joining us. Next week, we've got Phil Poyser to round the year out, but we've seen some beautiful poetry from Nick. And yeah, how are you doing?
Fine, thank you. Yeah, it's lovely to be in Mac.
Back in the warm, back cold out there. Yeah, really enjoyed your set tonight. Just want to tell us a bit about yourself for anyone who's new to you.
Right. Well, I'm a poet, obviously, from Stoke-on-Trent, and I used to be in bands way back in the day. But I just really got fed up with carting equipment and doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
So being a poet, you just turn up with your head and you're off.
Sure.
Just do it.
And so, how did you come to do it again? How did you make the switch? Was it?
Well, I finished playing in a band in, I think it was about 87 or something like that. And the itch was still there, always had guitars in the house. But the moment had gone because I thought there's no point being in a band, when you get to your 30s and stuff like that. I want to be in a cutting edge band. I don't want to be somebody churning out covers or something like that.
Sure.
I want it to mean something. And as you're getting on in years, I didn't think that would happen. So then I started writing a football fanzine, and then when that finished in '97, there was a bit of creative hiatus. And then in 2000, I went to a creative writing class.
Right. Okay.
And I'd been to 3 of them, and it was woeful. It really was. And then I said to my wife, I'm not going to go tonight. She said, just give it one more week. Just give it another week and see how you go on. So I turned up for the 4th one, and the lecturer said, tonight we're going to do poetry.
Right.
And the lady next to me said, oh, poetry's rubbish. So I just wrote that down, poetry's rubbish. And then I changed it to poetry's cobblers, words are shoes. On different feet are different clues. Sandals rhyme, but moccasins don't. A brogue will need polishing, but a Wellington won't. And I did that in about a minute, and I thought, this poetry lot's a doddle, so I'm going to be a poet.
Sure.
But as it turns out, it's not a doddle. So many, many years later, 2015, I was writing bits and bobs of poetry, and a friend of a friend said, why don't you go into the poetry slam in Macclesfield?
Right.
And I didn't even know what a poetry slam was. So she sent me the details, and it was at MASH, and I turned up, and I remember driving through Rudyard with my books and everything, thinking, what am I doing to myself here? And I can actually remember walking into MASH thinking, I don't know whether just to go home.
Right.
But as soon as I got there, I met Mark Rawlins. As soon as I got there, and then as soon as I got on stage, bang, that was it.
Yeah. Oh, great.
And I absolutely loved it. So that's why I love coming back to MASH.
Yeah.
Because
definitely.
that was where it all started.
And then you've gone on to perform all over, I guess.
Yeah, I do. Strangely, I do quite a bit down in Devon.
Right.
And I do quite a bit up in Yorkshire, East Yorkshire, sort of Horn Beverley down there. And it seems to resonate with the people there.
And you perform about all sorts of things, but you decided to do music tonight.
Yeah. I suppose it's in my DNA. Music's in my DNA. And quite a bit of the poetry, the way I rehearse them, sometimes I'll sit there strumming a guitar just so they go in like a song, because when I perform, I'd rather do it straight from the head rather than reading from my book. So yeah, I've built up, because music was my first love and music was my last. Music of the future, music of the past. If it wasn't already a song, I'd write. So, it's just in me. So I find writing about music, A, interesting, and B, stimulating, because it kind of gets me back into the music through poetry, sort of through the back door.
And when you've been writing and doing all this stuff, has it been a lot of musicians that have influenced you? Has it been other writers? Has it been films, TV? What's been yours?
It's a tricky question, really. I suppose coming through the punk thing, which I did, we were lucky in the respect that, listening to Patti Smith, Patrick Fitzgerald, Pete Shelley of the Buzzcocks, his songs, pure poetry, beautiful. John Cooper Clarke, obviously. A lot of poetic things came out of the punk scene. So, that's something I go back to. So musically, punk, post-punk, that's where I am. Yeah, and I've one of the poems I did tonight, The Record Shop, I've recorded that with somebody who used to be in a band with many years ago. Sure. And, we were always into Pill, and we were always into Joy Division and stuff like that. And what I was trying to do with that poem is get it into people's heads that they were listening to that music when I was performing the poem, because when we actually recorded it, we've got very choppy guitar. It's very post-punk. Yeah.
And so where did you record that? Was that someone's house? Was it in a studio?
It was in a studio.
Yeah,
it was in a studio in Stoke. He's got a band called You Do Voodoo, who are absolutely brilliant. He does quite a lot of funk type stuff. He's a great player, and he does very sort of Nile Rodgers licks and that kind of thing. But for this, it was purely sort of post-punk, very angular. But I keep meaning to get it done on a CD or get it released somehow. But because I'm like 3,000 years old, I just don't understand all of the streaming things. So it'll probably just sit. It's on YouTube. I've got a couple on YouTube.
Right, okay.
So if anybody wants to see Nick Degg poet on YouTube, there are a few music poems on there.
So I see you've got a CD there. Is that other poems?
That Harping On About Stuff CD, that was done with a guy called John Aldersey, another Stoke producer. And that really is very orchestral. There are cellos and violins.
Really?
And, it's quite earnest, really. It's almost Victorian.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just a nice little catalogue of work. Yeah.
And you've also been working on a couple of books and things like that. How are those gone?
The books have done pretty well. That one, A Cup of Teeth, that was my first book. That's still available on Amazon. I've run out of proper copies, but it's like 155 pages, something like that, and I was really proud of it. But I don't know if you're the same with your books, but there's lots of pen scribble marks in this, because I'm always chipping away at them, even though they've been committed to paper. I still like messing about.
One of mine only has an official version because it's in the book. I change it every time I'm performing. It's quite. I like flipping like little topical things in it because it's based on Revolution will not be televised. So sometimes I like put other things in there instead.
I remember that one from MASH.
So Richard was saying you performed a few unique gigs recently. You did one in a kiln. Just want to tell us about some gigs you've done over the years?
Yeah, the one Richard came to, it was at Middleport Pottery in Stoke, which is becoming quite famous now, through television and whatnot, with the Pottery Throwdown recorded there. And I just had the opportunity to do a set in a bottle kiln, and I think it's the first event that's ever taken place in there. And it was, the sound, the acoustics in there were absolutely fantastic. And it was a really nice event. It was to celebrate the passing of Clarice Cliff 50 years on, because she was a Burslem girl, and she made some beautiful pottery. So, but other than that, I try to spread myself round. I don't just want to be doing libraries and preach to the converted. I've started now doing retirement villages.
Really?
So I go round and, there are 40 or 50 older people in the room, but because some of my poetry sort of harks back to the glory days of the potteries, if you like, they resonate with that. And
really nice.
It's great, and you have some fantastic conversations with them. Oh, I used to work on such and such pottery, and
nice.
Yeah. And I, just try to do different things. I recently missed out on the Staffordshire Poet Laureateship.
Right. Oh, that's a shame.
Which at the time I was really upset about.
Right. I suppose another equally brilliant poet won it, so you can't really too mad, I suppose.
She probably won't see this. I think they played safe. I think the judges played safe because, she'll probably do libraries and various poetry nights, but probably not reach the audiences that I perhaps will.
Right.
Because, I go into schools. And with work now, I work at a museum in Newcastle, and I've started doing children's story time. So I sort of dress up as a Victorian and take children on a journey, if you like, into 1870, and it's great. Just seeing the little chinks of knowledge building up in kids, it's just fantastic.
And you were talking about doing a tour where you're doing A to Z tour?
Yeah, that was one of the things I proposed for the laureateship.
Right.
I thought, what a great idea that would be, to start at, I can't remember where I've got in mind for A, because how I've done it, I've started bang in the middle, because I'd already got a gig booked at the Foxlow in Leek.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, if I start at L, I can work both ways rather than starting at A and going that way. So, there's the Foxlow and Leek, hopefully Mash and Mac, and then Kidsgrove, Oak Hill and Penkle. So it's filling out, but I thought that would be a really nice idea to do an A to Z tour. But as I'm trying to plan it all and schedule it all, I sometimes wish I'd never bothered.
Bit of an organisational nightmare.
It is. Yeah.
So, and do you have any gigs coming up in the next few weeks that people can see, or next year?
Let's have a think. I can't remember off the top of my head. I really can't remember. But my Facebook page, Nick Degg Poet Facebook page, that normally has, if not 1 week, another week it'll have a listing of what I'm going to be up to.
And that's the main place, the only place people can find you online? Or is there other places?
I do a bit on Instagram.
Right.
I don't really understand Twitter.
Yeah.
So really Facebook and YouTube, probably.
And if they want the books, they're just on Amazon. Do a search and you'll find it.
A Cup of Teeth, the big one. That's Amazon. The I Come From a Town, which is essentially a book of pottery poetry.
Right.
I've just ordered another batch, and they'll be with me, just after Christmas, I would think.
Oh, great.
So, just contact me directly through Facebook or whatever. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for coming on the show. I'm sure we'll all see you down at MASH next year.
Yeah, let's hope so. Yeah, thank you. Cheers.